Well, good morning everyone. I'm here in my okra costume, getting ready to do my harvest for the day. I just wanted to show you guys what it's like to be an okra farmer. Well, I have to wear long sleeves and long pants because I get irritated by the little barbs that are covering the okra plant. I also like to wear some thick gloves. I carry a small basket and a small pair of clipping shears. Let me show you what I do with it. Well, first of all, you can see these plants behind me are way taller than me. That one's probably about 10 feet tall. What I like to do is wear a bucket on one of my arms. And then I have to pull this plant all the way down. Cut the okras that are all over probably 1.5 inches long and let it go. I wear the basket on my cutting hand so I can drop the okra in with my grabbing hand. So let's try that again with another. Got 2 off of this one. I drop them in the basket. We have the red okra here. This one's not as tall as the green okra. So this is our 3rd year growing okra here on our homestead. The first year, I thought that we had an amazing crop. I think we grew some sort of jambalaya okra. It was kind of like a thicker green okra. We realized back then that you had to harvest it before it gets too much thicker than your finger, because once they get really thick, it becomes too hard to cut them and way too chewy to even consider eating. So I do have to come out here at least every 2 days, and I'm using that same technique that I did the first year, because our second year, which was last summer, just I guess based on the varieties we chose and the location that we picked, we just didn't really have a successful crop. But as you can see this year, we're just overrun with okra. I've never seen an actual okra farm before to know how big they expect the plants to get, but I can't imagine what it's like to harvest okra by hand when your entire crop is this tall. Granted, our spacing is pretty tight and it's not very accessible to get around the plant. We basically have 2 full rows, about 70 plants I believe, and on one side over here on the tall side, I have to watch out where I'm stepping because we have a full row of peppers as well. So I kind of have to lean over the peppers, pull down the okra, and sometimes if the tall okra is on a branch instead of the main trunk, when I pull it down, it rips right off. And that's happened twice so far, and it was actually the same plant. Over on the red side, I can probably learn more from that going forward. It's just a big mulched walkway. We have about 3 feet of mulch that I can walk on. There are some melons growing around that I have to be careful not to step on, and we have some basil as well. But in general, I can walk right up to the plant, hug it, really get in there, and take all the okra out of the stalks. So, like I said, we probably have about 70 plants, and anytime I come out, if it's daily, if my harvest is daily, I'll probably fill up one of these. With okra around this size, this is about 2 days growth. And since I skip all the ones that are 1 inch or smaller, they kind of have a head start for the next day's harvest. I'm sure if we came out and wiped the entire harvest clean, down to like the tiniest okra, then each day we would probably be harvesting them too small. But since I do this every other day, it kind of gives it time to catch up. And typically I'll find some okra that were missed from the last time, and they'll be about that long, that wide, and I just kind of throw them over the fence. We have some tall patches of weeds and stuff in our yard, and I just use those as compost piles. Throw any of the waste plants that we have over the fence. And that includes peppers that have some rot in the bottom, or some over-ripened tomatoes, or even the pumpkins that the deer eat, or messed up cucumbers, gourds. I just throw them right over the fence because our baskets are too small and we don't have a lot of room here to be stockpiling basically the inedible produce. So I just reject them right at the time of harvest. I'll show you my system here. I have my large harvest basket. That'll fit a couple gallons comfortably of produce. But it would be pretty annoying to be holding this in my elbow here while also harvesting okra. So these baskets basically prevent us from getting overly fatigued while we're doing our harvest. And they have the added benefit of being able to be clipped onto our belt if we were having a belt on, or maybe a lanyard, or what I like to do is just wear it on the elbow. And then once I fill this up, I dump it into the larger basket, and that just kind of gets moved around the garden probably 2 or 3 times as I rotate around doing my harvest. And this cool basket also has some partitions. So sometimes I'll find some like damaged tomatoes with like a crack in them or a worm in them. Things that I would typically reject, but I know that our chickens like worms and tomatoes. So I might set those in the skinny partition here so it doesn't get mixed up with the rest of the harvest. And also sometimes what I can do is if I'm filling up 3 or more of these baskets, I might just have this entire big basket with the orange handles all okra. I'll just keep dumping them in here. And then before I go inside, I'll go around and I'll fill up the white baskets with other things, like maybe eggplant in one, peppers in another, or maybe spicy peppers in one, sweet peppers in the other. Basically anything I can do out here while I'm harvesting. It doesn't take any extra energy to place them in a specific basket, but that saves us sorting time in the kitchen. And I'd rather deal with it out here while I can go ahead and look for defects and throw them away than bring all of the stuff inside, have to dump it all, mix it all into separate bowls, and then reject stuff into our compost pail, which is just like a small little bucket on our countertop that gets filled up really fast. Just moving in and out, trying to throw that stuff in the compost pile, it's just a waste of time. So what I recommend as you do your harvest, go ahead and cull things that are imperfect. Plant more plants than you think you need, because you never know what's going to happen to them with deer, with rabbits, even with you walking around stepping on things. And then that makes it so it's not so upsetting when you have to throw away a full, perfect developed bell pepper that has like a hole in it from a worm. Just don't feel bad about it. Take the good stuff. It's way more enjoyable in the kitchen, just being able to eat your own produce without having to worry about worms and stuff inside. So I'm going to continue this project. I'm going to get the rest of the okra, and then maybe I'll show you guys the quantity that I got. my harvest is complete for the okra. Let me show you what I got so far. This is about 2 to 3 gallons. You can see here there's a bit larger yield for the green than the red, but I think that's mainly because the green, I don't know if you can tell here, gets fatter. These ones are probably the biggest ones that I would attempt to use. A lot of times I'll lay them down on the cutting board and whack it with a knife, and I call it the knife test. If the blade doesn't seat firmly inside of the okra, like it's getting sliced, then it's too brittle, too thick. Another test I do is I squeeze it. See how you can hear that? That might be a little too firm. When it's making a crunchy sound, usually if they're smaller, your fingers just kind of squish into them and they don't make any noise. So you can just roll it through your fingers. I'll probably reject that one. Anyway, the red ones seem to get long before they get fat. And it's very rare that I reject a red one for being too big. And usually the only time that happens is if I've missed a whole branch from previous harvest and it was allowed to grow for probably 5 days or so in the peak summer. Let me show you the reject. I usually throw these right over the fence as soon as I find them, but I wanted to show you guys. Look how huge these are getting. I told you it's rare that I find a red one this big. I found probably 4 about that thickness, and rarely red ones get this thick, but it's very common that I'll find, like these all came from one branch. It's like a branch that I missed. I was looking up way at the 10-foot ones, and then I forgot down towards the ground that there might be a new branch coming up with new growth. So I recommend when you walk through your okra patch, go back through another direction, looking at a different angle, and you'll probably find more. So yeah, these are huge. Try to squeeze it. I can't even get it to crunch because it's so hard. I doubt I'd be able to even cook it to make it edible. So I'm just gonna start throwing these. My compost pile's right behind the camera. Well, while I'm out here, I think I want to show you guys what it's like up close to the trunk of an okra plant. Check this out. You can see here we have a small, probably 3-inch circle in our weed guard. These things are trees. You can see they have a bark on them. They have like a woodiness. There's no way I'm going to be able to pull these out of the ground like I would just like a pepper plant or a tomato plant. I'm going to have to cut these off with a chainsaw, or maybe just like a sharp handheld saw. And before I can pull the weed guard off the top, I'm not even sure if I'll be able to grow anything in this spot next year because the roots won't decompose that fast. So I'm going to take this time just to talk about our experience. I already told you about previous years and some of the tricks that we've learned about harvesting, but what I haven't told you yet is that I have no real experience beyond what we've done here on our homestead with agriculture, with farming, with raising chickens. This is all just kind of experimental, and I do what a lot of people say to do, which is take notes, keep some sort of journal about your planting, crop calendar, the challenges you faced, and then use what you've learned from the previous season to make your next season a bit better. So all the stuff I learned the previous years kind of led to this garden. Watch the other garden updates from this year and you'll see I built this whole south-facing garden in our front yard just this spring, and it's the best garden we've had so far. I made sure all of the crops were planted in 2 to 3 inches of fresh compost, and we've had the best yields of all of the crops that have been planted here than we've ever had, probably all of the years we've been farming combined. Well, I don't know what okra plant's like. I've never been to any sort of commercial or professional okra operation, and I can't really tell you for sure why these plants got this tall. Maybe it's because they have better drainage soil. I've read, in general, crops like well draining soil, good draining soil. And maybe it's because they're south facing and they have no obstructions. The sun goes right on them. Maybe it's because our irrigation is working pretty well, or maybe it's because there's some other crop that we're growing that adds something to the soil, like nitrogen, or who knows. But check this out. You can see the green ones in the back. And the red ones here in the front are a bit shorter. I have a theory. Maybe these red ones are shading out the green ones, so the green ones had to grow taller, sort of like pine trees do in the woods. Like they'll find the gap and they'll kind of grow out towards the sun. Maybe green ones just grow bigger. The okras are certainly bigger than the red ones, so maybe it's just the variety. And I'll show you some more up close. You'll probably find tons that I missed. They're just so hard to see because the red okra grow on a red plant, red trunk. Even these little stems that go up to the leaves are red. The green ones grow on a green trunk. So like the fruit that you're trying to harvest is the exact same color as the plant. And it's really hard to see. So here's today. We probably have 4 times as much sitting in the kitchen. I'm gonna have to give it to some neighbors. There's another one that's too big. Throw that away. Well, that concludes our okra video. I hope you learned something. I'm definitely learning stuff every day as I try out our okra journey as being okra farmers. We don't typically sell our crop, but we might be working up to that. As we give stuff to neighbors, our names get out there, and people like to come back. People like to see what we're up to. They like community-sourced foods. And if you are a professional and you've grown okra before and you can answer some of my questions, please leave comments down below telling me why our okra are this big, if we're doing things right, what you think we should do next. And if you're new, keep on the lookout for more videos, and feel free to start a conversation down in the comments. And please like our video if you enjoyed it. Thank you.